Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. HTM here on the public test server. This week we're checking out update 32 and the Deadlands DLC. I'm in the Deadlands checking it out. Pretty awesome so far. But in this video I want to talk about something completely different. Something that's going to completely change the game of ESO. This has to do with set hybridization. If you saw my earlier video about this, basically what ZeniMax has done for every set in ESO is if it has certain values, those values are now good for both stamina builds and magicka builds. And this applies to almost every damage dealing set in the game. It doesn't really affect tank sets so much, but light armor sets, medium armor sets, some heavy armor sets, which we'll look at in a minute, but tons and tons of sets are affected by this. So I wanted to let you know about this. I want to show you some of my sets that I will be looking out for and how these could possibly be used on different builds that maybe have never been able to use them before, but you'll be able to start using them now in update 32. So let's jump into a couple of these. I'll try to have timestamps down below. These are my top sets that I'm looking at that have been updated for this major change that we're going to see. So let me show you what I'm talking about first. Let me do a favorite set of mine. That is Deadly Strike. This is a PvP set, but I use this on tons of PvE and solo builds because it's great for dot builds. Now you notice this did get changed. I don't think this actually had a patch note, but it now increases your damage over time and channeled abilities by 15%. I think that was 18% before. But we were asking about this last patch because it still had those stamina-based stats like weapon damage and weapon critical. Well, now check those out. The 2 through 4 piece bonuses are now hybridized. That means you get weapon and spell damage. You get just flat critical chance, so that counts for both weapon and spell critical. And you get weapon and spell damage again. So some of us were thinking about, hey, you could use this on like a Magicka Templar, Magicka Dragonite, something like that, where you have a lot of magic or fire-based dots. Now you can do it quite well, and your 2 through 4 piece bonuses will be perfect for that. Let me give you another set you can start thinking about maybe for magicka builds, and that is Briarheart. Briarheart got the hybrid treatment as well. So now we have 2-piece crit chance bonus, 3-piece max stamina, 4-piece crit chance bonus, and for the 5-piece, when you deal critical damage, you increase your weapon and spell damage by 450 for 10 seconds. Plus you get the extra healing with the 15-second cooldown, and the heals scale off the higher of your max magical or stamina. So you could think about running this maybe on a PvP magicka build, because you do get some nice stats from running Briarheart now. Pretty interesting. Here's another one I was looking at. I'm basically just looking at overland sets first. Gryphon's Ferocity. This comes from the Zone of Summer set. Super easy set to get. This is now hybridized as well. 2-piece crit chance, 3-piece crit chance, 4-piece weapon and spell damage. And for the 5-piece, after dealing direct damage, you gain minor force and minor expedition, increasing your crit damage and your movement speed by 15%. This used to be just a stamina only set, but now you could run this maybe on magicka builds for the extra mobility. For the extra crit damage, of course, you get spell damage as well now, so that's pretty interesting. Now, I want to point out that you wouldn't do this on every single set in the game. It's not really viable in all cases. I know something a lot of people were wondering about was Mother Sorrow. What does Mother Sorrow look like? Well, Mother Sorrow is pretty similar. I mean, it gives you the 2-piece max magicka, and the 3 through 5 piece bonuses now give you crit chance. So it used to be spell critical, now it's just crit chance. So that applies both spell and weapon critical at the same time. So this is what Mother Sorrow is going to look like in update 32. Notice the magicka there, the 2-piece bonus, is not hybridized. So this is where you'll see some older sets will still probably be either focused on light armor, magicka builds, or medium armor stamina builds due to their main resource. So you can see this doesn't get like magicka and stamina. That would be bonus stats, right? This just has the max magicka. So then if we look at the medium armor counterpart to this, which is Leviathan from Crypt of Hearts, you can see the same thing here. So you do get hybrid crit chance, but you have max stamina as the 2-piece bonus. So yes, you could run Leviathan on the magicka build. You could run Mother Sorrow on the stamina build, but I don't think you would because of that 2-piece stat bonus. You're going to want to match that still with your build. Here's another example you might have thought of. Spinner's Garments, right? You can see how this has changed. So the 4-piece has the hybrid bonus. It gets weapon and spell damage. The 5-piece gets the hybrid bonus. So this is offensive penetration, so both physical and spell penetration. But it still has max magicka as the 2 and 3-piece bonuses. So you wouldn't really use this on stamina build. You would still use Spriggans. So in cases like this, it's really not going to make a big difference. Now let's look at some interesting dungeon sets, you guys. This is really juicy. This is where things start to get really interesting. Dagon's Dominion. This is a medium armor dungeon set. Now gives you weapon and spell damage, 3-piece max stamina, 4-piece weapon and spell damage, and 5-piece adds almost 500 weapon and spell damage to your area of effect abilities. I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe Mag Warden PvP build. You could easily use the extra stamina, and this is going to buff all of your AoE abilities, all those magicka-based AoEs through the roof. Almost 500 extra spell damage on those all the time. Here's another one, super interesting, maybe on magicka builds next patch. Kinra's Wrath is another medium armor dungeon set. This gives you weapon and spell damage now, crit chance, weapon and spell damage, and dealing damage with a light or heavy attack grants you a stack of Burning Heart. With 5 stacks, you get Major Berserk, increasing your damage by 10%, and your allies gain Minor Berserk, increasing their damage by 5%. Imagine this on some magicka builds. That sounds pretty interesting. Here's another one. Tzogvin's Warband also got the hybrid treatment. We have crit chance, offensive penetration, and then for the 5-piece, when you deal critical damage, you gain stacks of precision. This increases your critical chance by 177 for 5 seconds. At max stacks, you gain minor force. So that is another one you might think about on the magicka build. Let's look at some heavy armor sets next, because this doesn't really affect heavy armor sets quite as much. But there are a couple of outlier sets that I was thinking about. Here's one that I think got missed, and let me know in the comment section if you think this should be updated. Armor of Truth. The heavy armor set from Dark Shade. This gives you now crit chance, max stamina, weapon and spell damage. And I was thinking about this off balance proc. When you deal damage to an enemy who is off balance, your weapon damage is increased by 460 for 10 seconds. Now, it would seem like that should be weapon and spell damage, but it's not. So I don't know if this was maybe missed when they passed over these sets. Maybe it was. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Now here's a couple of heavy armor sets that are very similar. The Dreugh Slayer set from Fungal Grotto. This is pretty interesting now. The 5-piece specifically got changed as well. Check this out. 2-piece weapon and spell damage, 3-piece weapon and spell damage, 4-piece crit chance, 5-piece gain major brutality and sorcery at all times. Plus you gain major expedition for 8 seconds when you kill an enemy. Now this used to be just major brutality. I'm pretty sure this is now major brutality and sorcery. And the counterpart to this is Rattlecage. And check out Rattlecage. This is looking pretty good as well. The 2-piece max health, which is nice. And then 3, 4, 5-piece bonuses to both weapon and spell damage. Check out that extra 5-piece bonus, by the way. And then you still get major brutality and sorcery at all times. So that's pretty interesting. Now here's one where I know a lot of you were thinking about this when you heard about this change. Medusa. What does Medusa look like? Looks pretty good. Look at all the crit chance bonuses. Again, this covers both weapon and spell critical. So you got those nice bonuses there. And of course you gain minor force at all times. So this can easily be used on medium armor builds now in update 32. Something to keep in mind for sure. Now, as far as like monster sets, I don't think there was a lot of changes having to do with monster sets. Here's one that I did like, though. That's pretty nice. Iceheart. We were just complaining about this on the previous build that I did. It used to give you just spell critical, and now it gives you both. It gives you weapon and spell critical, so the 657 crit chance is going to be nice for hybrids. You can run this on medium armor builds if you want the extra protection, and you're still going to get your bonus crit chance. So that is very good. Other than that, I didn't see a lot that would be useful in terms of monster sets. Of course, if I missed anything, let me know in the comments section. The last thing we really want to look at is trial sets, right? And how might this affect trials builds moving forward? Well, the big sets, of course, like Relequen, did actually get changed this way too. These are now hybrid sets. Relequen now gives you the crit chance. The Minor Slayer, you get crit chance on the 4-piece. And then your light and heavy attacks apply the stack of harmful winds, dealing physical damage, and it does scale off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. So conceivably, you could run this on a light armor build. Same thing with Siroria, right? You get weapon and spell damage, Minor Slayer. You get the 4-piece Max Magicka, which isn't great for stamina builds, but you do get the stacking effect with light or heavy attacks, creating the Ring of Fire, and that does buff your weapon and spell damage by 52. So those potentially are pretty powerful on the off build. Here's one that I think may be even stronger. Bahsei's Mania, right? Check this out. 2-piece weapon and spell damage, 3-piece Minor Slayer, 4-piece crit chance, 5-piece on the perfected weapon and spell damage again, and then increase your damage done to non-player enemies by 15% based on your missing magicka. All right, think about this on a stamina build. Do you have 1 or 2 magicka abilities that you could spam and have 0 magicka at all times? Of course you do. I don't know, you guys. I don't know about this one. But hey, if you run trials, think about getting an extra set of this for your stamina builds. If this goes through, it's going to be pretty crazy. So there you go, guys. That's tons of updated sets. I'm sure there's some that I missed. Let me know, please, in the comment section if you think of any other crazy ideas of running non-meta sets on other builds where they're not typically run. Let us know what you're thinking about for next patch. Definitely have a lot more options now in ESO, which is pretty awesome. As always, if you found the video helpful today, make sure you crush that like button. If you're new around here, make sure you're subscribed for many more ESO updates, guides, and builds. And of course, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.